Hey there, everyone. Michael here. Um, so I was speaking to a viewer last night about some of the videos that I've done in the past, and it was brought to my attention that back in the early days when I first started up this YouTube channel, that I had mentioned that I was hospitalized, but I never really went into full detail, and I was asked to kind of go into full detail as kind of what happened to me during my hospitalization and things like that. Or leading up to my hospitalization, what happened to me in the hospital, and then uh, the following weeks after up until now. Uh, so, to give you a little back premise as to what did happen, I knew that I was sick and that something just wasn't right for about a full year and a half before I was hospitalized. Um, I was undiagnosed with the depression and bipolar at that time, and I just wasn't in a very good living situation, um, which made it really kind of escalate. And um, what ended up happening was I stayed locked up in my room for hours and days on end and never really came out unless no one else was in the house or everyone was asleep. And when I did come out, I was like really stealthy ninja type moves, um, just because of the people that I was living with. It wasn't the best situation, and I really had nowhere else that I could go at the time, so I just kind of, you know, did what I had to do. Well, during this whole time, um, like I said, I started feeling really, really just weak and blah all the time, just constantly drawn out, not feeling good, chronically tired. I was trying to go to school, trying to have a social life, and doing all this other stuff, but I just could not seem to feel better. And this went on for about 6 or 7 months, and I noticed that I started putting on a lot of weight, and that I was feeling, or that I was really bloated. And um, about 8 months into it, I started getting this little voice in the back of my head saying, "You're dying." And I thought, well, you know what? That's probably just me overreacting or whatever. Um, but you know, hindsight being 2020, I really should have listened to that a little bit more. Um, but I didn't. I just kind of like pushed it to the side, like whatever, whatever. Um, but as I started letting time go longer and longer, I realized that maybe maybe this is something that needs to be looked at. And I had medical insurance at the time, so there was absolutely no reason for me not to go to the doctors or the hospital or anything like that. But um, it's been labeled passive suicide by the therapist, or by my therapist, and some of the people that I've seen at mental health. And um, I think that's a really good um, label to give it, because there's those times where I just say, fuck it, I can't do this anymore, and I'll go 3 or 4 days without taking any medications, including my insulin, and my blood sugar will be 6, 7, 800, and I really should be going to the hospital, but then I don't. Um, like last night, my blood sugar was 587, and I probably should have sought medical help, but I know how to reverse it and everything else, so it's for me, it's not bad when it's really high like that. It's an inconvenience because it means that I'm constantly, frequently urinating and everything else. But, anyways, getting kind of sidetracked. So during this time period, um, I noticed that I wasn't able to drink water. Now, normally I can't drink water anyways because it makes me physically sick. Like, if I try to drink water straight out of the tap, I will throw up if I drink more than a half a glass of it. Don't know what it is. Been that way ever since I was a little kid. But I started getting dehydrated really, really bad. And I had this funky, nasty ass taste in my mouth. It tasted like rotting meat. It had this metallic tinge, rotting meat, like, ugh, to it. And, on top of that, I was urinating full bladder loads every minute to every 5 minutes. And it wasn't clear, or it was just clear liquid, and it started taking on a smell like acetone, like nail polish remover. And then I noticed that it also had a very sweet smell to it. And this is a little gross and maybe a little too much TMI, but I had seen a documentary on ancient Greek medicine and how they used to test to see if you had diabetes or whatever, and they would take a look, they would dab a little bit on their finger and then taste it, and if it was really, really sweet, then they would say, okay, you know, there's the possibility that yes, you are diabetic, or no, you're, you know, something else is, there's another underlying issue. So I did that, and let me tell you, you know, I had to get over the gag reflex first, but I was like, licked it, and sure enough, it was pure sugar water. It was at that point where I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I have diabetes, or something like that is happening with me. Did that make me go to the hospital? No. I also had a really horrible, horrible cough. Like, worse than a regular cold, to the point where it sounded like I had tuberculosis, and I was like kind of joking around with my friends and everyone. I was like, oh yeah, I have tuberculosis, don't mind me. You know, I know tuberculosis isn't a joke, but my personal way of dealing with stuff is to make jokes out of it. And so that's what I was doing. I was joking about everything. And be like, oh, it's been 5 seconds, gotta go pee, you know, and all my friends, ha 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 ha. But it really got to the point where it was the urinating that was really starting to wear on me. I went to try to go see a movie with a friend of mine, and I think I maybe saw 5 minutes of that whole movie, because the rest of the time I was sitting in the bathroom. And at one point, it wasn't a very crowded theater. At one point, I had finished off my soda, and I just started peeing into the cup right there in the theater. Again, too much information, but I was tired of having to get up and go to the bathroom. I think another thing that really caused me to be startled was I was taking a shower one night, and I was just so damn thirsty that I started drinking the shower water, knowing that it was tap water, but I drank it regardless. I started throwing up blood. It came out like this bright pink bile color, and I was like, okay, you know, something really is definitely going wrong. Still set, like, you know, okay, yeah, something's wrong, but at this point, who cares, really? There's no reason for me to live. I'm super depressed. No one's going to do anything about it. Even if I do try to do something about it, I'm not going to have the backing. I'm not going to have the support. I'm not going to have the support. I'm not going to have the support that I need in order to get myself healthy. So why should I care about myself if no one else is caring about me? And um, that was really kind of sobering, because here I am surrounded by people who are supposed to love me and everything else, and I felt like me dying was probably going to be the best thing. Um, at this point, it's probably about 10, 11 months into me being sick, and I'm only able to stay awake maybe an hour or two at a time, sleep for 2 or 3 hours, up for an hour, sleep for 3 or 4 hours, up an hour. um, so yeah, it was really, really I knew that it was getting bad, and um, at the time I was living in California, and I was working at a child care center, and I was the cook, so I had access to sugary stuff, and I knew that only when my sugar, or when I ate a lot of sugar, I felt better. I actually went into this kind of euphoric feeling of just like, oh, yes, thank you. It was like getting a fix of a drug. The more I did this drug, the better I felt. And as my sugar started coming down, I would feel really horrible and just sick and tired. I'd go drink a 2 liter of Sprite, feel great afterwards. Drank a gallon of orange juice, felt amazing. So that's what I did for those 11 months. Was I was going through 2, 3, 4 gallons of soda and orange juice and any other kind of sugary thing I could get my hands on. And so yeah, it was a very bad roller coaster that I got into, and then that's when my depression and bipolar really started kicking in, and I didn't realize that's what I had at that point. That I was just physically and mentally ill, and I was quite literally committing suicide. Straight up and honest, that's what was happening. I was committing suicide. It was July 2nd. No, I'm sorry. It was June 27th when I finally was like, enough is enough. I had just went to Disneyland like the week before that, and I somehow managed to make it through Disneyland, doing all the rides and everything, feeling like absolute shit. And I was out and about with my sister, and I told her, I said, you know what, I just feel like crap. I don't know what it is. I think I need to go to the hospital. I seriously think I need to go to the hospital. This is it. I've got to go. And she just kept, oh, whatever, you're just overreacting. I'm like, no, just fucking take me to the hospital. I've got to go. So she takes me to the hospital, she drops me off, and then she goes home, thinking, I'm just overreacting. About 15 minutes later, I was admitted into the hospital, and they called her to come down and sign paperwork and everything, and I told them, she's my guardian, she's the person I want to have. Every decision that has to be made has to go through her, no one else. And so they took my blood sugar with a machine that they had, and that machine tapped out. It automatically set error. They grabbed another machine that went up to 14,500. I'm sorry, not 14,000. 1,400. And that machine tapped out. So they were estimating that my blood sugar was at least 1,500. Between 14 and 1,500 when I went in, or when I was admitted into the ER. The doctors instantly started giving me medication and morphine and stuff like that to just try to like stabilize me. At one point they did testing on me and they said that my gap level, which I've still never really understood what the gap level is, but they said my gap level was at 32, I'm sorry. And I guess it's only supposed to be 2 or 3. So the doctors were really concerned with that. And in the ER in the ER, they kept putting IVs in me, and I would break them, not knowing, but they would end up breaking. So eventually, after about 3 days of being in the ER, they finally put a life pick into my groin area. And even through all the morphine and the painkillers and the medication that they had me on, I could still feel that. And why they felt it necessary to have trainees come in and try to deal with someone who was as sick as I was at that point, you know, I wasn't expecting preferential treatment because, it's just another day at the job for them. But somebody that far off really should have had seasoned doctors and nurses working on them with the students or whatever sitting in the background taking notes. But they tried to go in on my right side first, and they couldn't tap that vein. I don't know if you know what a PICC line is, but it's like a really thick straw, and they stabbed me in the right side like 3 or 4 times trying to find this vein. Digging around, I swear to God they were crocheting or something down there. It hurt so freaking bad. I thought I broke my sister's hand because she was sitting there holding my hand, and I heard her hand snap. That's how hard I was squeezing her hand. Finally, they went in on the left side, and they found the vein and went ahead and patched it all up and everything else. One thing I'm extremely thankful for is my fast healing metabolism. That's maybe because I'm still young, but that wasn't an open wound for very long. It healed up around it really quickly. So they started giving me all my fluids and stuff through that PICC line. Also during this time period, the doctor said no water whatsoever. So from what my sister was telling me tonight, my gums receded, my tongue got really, really thick, I just dehydrated even worse. And I remember at one point, one of the medications that they gave me relaxed the soft palate of my mouth. And so the uvula, the little flap of skin that hangs down, was in the back of my throat, and I was constantly choking on it, which caused me to get an infection, and I lost my voice on top of everything else. So the whole time I was in there, I was talking like this because I really couldn't say anything else. So I was really, really hot, raspy, and about day 6 of me being in the ER, because at this point I'm still not stable enough to be transferred to ICU. So it was about day 4 or day 6. Um, I was just really, really tired, and I felt at that point that I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? And I had kind of like a spiritual thing happen to me. Now, I'm not a very spiritual person in like the Christian sense of the word spiritual. I'm a spiritual person in like I believe that there's a higher power, um, and things like that. I don't necessarily say, yes, there's God, yes, there's Jesus, and all this other stuff, what have you. But um, I saw something in my delirium at the foot of my bed that has been described numerous times as like the angel of death or grim reaper or whatever. It was just this dark grayish black figure that was pacing in front of the foot of my bed. And I kind of looked at it, and without saying anything but saying it, kind of like telepathy, I was like, it. I know this sounds really weird, but this is, life and death experience type stuff. It said, "Are you ready to go?" And I kind of pondered the question for the longest time, and I finally answered back, no, I think I still have stuff I gotta do here. And I happened to look over, and I saw that my sister was asleep in the chair next to me, and I said, I I don't want to leave her. I don't think she could handle me not being there. Very egocentrically saying this, and so it said, well, if you decide to stay, you're going to undertake a lot of trials and tribulations and what have you, blah blah blah, yada yada. And I just made my decision right there on the spot. No, I want to go ahead and stay. I want to see my niece grow up. I want to be there for my sister as much as possible, what have you. Um, the next day, I had a breakthrough and was able to finally get admitted to ICU. Once I was up in ICU, I was able to stay there for. Oh, I was only staying there for 2, maybe 3 days on top of that. And they got to the point where it was like, okay, my gap levels were starting to close up. My everything else was starting to take a um, fall back into place and get into normal range numbers. And I was finally able to take a shower and everything. Well, it wasn't a full-on shower. It was kind of like a sponge bath, and I just remember feeling so weak trying to get up out of that bed and stand and just try to do things on my own. About 3 days later, they came in and removed the PICC line from me, which was excruciating. I thought it going in was bad, but by this point, my my body had started healing around it and skin growing up the tube. So they had to cut it out of me. Thankfully, I'm not scarred from it, but yeah, they eventually cut it out of me and got me all stitched up and taken care of. And then I was moved into it's like one step below ICU, where I could have visitors come in, and was pretty much just waiting for the okay to leave. Um, I noticed that while I was in the hospital that my eyesight went from being where it is now to 20/20. I wasn't able to use my glasses. I still have no idea what the hell that was all about. None of the doctors understand what happened, the reason that that I had perfect vision. But about 3 weeks out of the hospital, and my eyesight started going back to where I needed to be dependent on glasses. And so yeah, it's been a long, struggling journey getting from hospitalization to where I'm at now. My diabetes is not under control because I'm not under control. I do not control my diabetes the way I should. I eat what I want, when I want, how I want, and I don't follow any kind of low glycemic index. I know everything I gotta do, but I don't do it. And again, I'm talking to therapists and counselors about this, trying to figure out what's going on. If it's just a mental blockade, if it's, what it is. So we're still trying to figure that out. But the one thing I can say to any of you who happen to think that you may be diabetic or are experiencing any symptoms like constant thirst, constant urination, euphoric feeling after you've eaten a lot of sweets or sugars, any of that, go get yourself checked out. Thankfully, because I was overweight, I was able to pull from it, or pull out of it kind of easily. Not easily, that's a horrible word to use right now, but had I been thinner, the doctors said that I would have died instantly, that there would have been no way that my body would have been able to withhold or withstand the amount of damage that I did to it. I later found out that I had lost over 15% of lean muscle, so my ability to lift and my strength has just gone out the window. I am not able to lift or move or do any of the stuff that I used to be able to. I used to be able to bench press at least 250 to 300 pounds. I can barely hold up 125 pounds now. And, like, lifting a 25-pound bag of cat litter is damn near impossible. I can do it, but it really takes a toll on me and makes me really, like, shake from the strain that I'm putting my muscles through. It's not worth it, folks. The depression, bipolar, whatever it is, it gets a hold of you, makes you think that you're not supposed to continue on. That's what happened with me. And still to this day, almost 8 years later, I'm still suffering from those decisions. And it's not something that I would wish on anyone. Diabetic burnout happens to everyone. You just gotta keep going forward. Give yourself the treats that you normally used to eat. Or if you feel that you may be diabetic or pre-diabetic or whatever terminology you want to use, make sure that you get checked out. There are state-funded programs that you can get on if you don't have medical insurance. Most hospitals, if you go in and you're seen through the ER, will give you at least 6 months of medical insurance. There's county programs, there's Department of Human Health Services, there's state aid, county aid, you name it. There's aid out there. But don't make the same mistake that I did and almost lose your life. Diabetes ketoacidosis is not a pleasant thing. It's not something to play around with. And now I have that to worry about on top of being diabetic also. The diabetes ketoacidosis means that after a certain time of going unchecked with my sugar going unchecked, that my blood will start to turn to acid and eat away at my internal organs and muscle mass. If my sugars go, I've noticed one thing about myself: if my sugars begin to go too high for too long unchecked, I start breaking out in what I call sugar blisters, and they form all over the place. I don't know if you can see here, but I have scarring. There's little scabs and all kinds of other things all over my arms. There's these two little scabs right here. They're all from sugar. My sugar being too high, too long. So, even though I don't personally take care of myself, I'm asking you, if you know this about yourself and you feel this about yourself, you really got to try to do something. I know it's kind of an oxymoron, listening to somebody who knows that they have these problems but still doesn't do anything about it, telling you or telling someone else, hey, you really gotta do this. But that's my story. I'm still here. Thankfully, I'm still in somewhat good health. I do have a few mental problems and my own personal demons that I gotta deal with. I am overweight. I'm trying to work on all those things, but right now, that's my story that I decided that you needed to hear. And I'm really thankful for the viewer who brought it up, because I thought that I may have told you all about this in the past, but I know that it was one of the first blogs that I did on the blog. So, yeah. If you have a story that you would like to share, please do so. I would love to hear it. Send me a video response to this. Send me an email message, whatever. Go over on the blog and send me something over there, and I'll post it if it's something that you would like to share. Hit me up on Facebook. There's a great Facebook page that's dedicated to the website and to the YouTube channel. The website itself, hellocupcakeitsme.com, has great resource information, and if you know of something in your area, please send me your information, because what I would like for my blog to eventually be is a diabetic hub that's worldwide, so that people can go there and be like, oh, hey, you know what, I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, what's available to me? Oh, you know what, I see right here that there's a tab for Atlanta, Georgia. I want to be able to help people, even if I don't help myself. Helping you is going to help me. And so, please help me take that time, or take that step. And I love hearing from you guys. So, continue giving me the feedback, because that helps me help someone else. And chances are I have a story that I can share that will give you the tools or give you an idea of what needs to be done. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but thank you for listening. Thank you for the questions, comments, and concerns. Hit me up, hellocupcakeitsme@gmail.com. Hit up the website, hellocupcakeitsme.com. Go to Facebook and look for hellocupcakeitsme or hellocupcakeitsme. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's hellocupcake, the number 4, the letter U. On Pinterest, it's pinterest.com/bubagoo. Or bubagoo2, yeah. And anyways, hope y'all have a great night, and I will talk to you later.